This power supply is new. It's a collaboration with Seasonic. But there's something else that has been released from Noctua that you probably haven't heard of. These guys. These are the generation 2 of Noctua NFA12X25 fans. These are 140mm fans, and you're thinking, what's special about the fans? You know, fans, boring. It took Noctua roughly about 10 years to manufacture these second ones. Why? Let's take a look at these fans first, and you understand.
This video is brought to you by AMD Ryzen Pro. Here's 4 things that make AMD Ryzen Pro stand out. Number 1, local AI inside your device. Speed up your workflow with the help of the integrated NPU. Number 2, security. Ryzen Pro has a multi-layer security system in hardware and software level, making sure that your data is safe at all times. Number 3, efficiency and battery life. Some of the devices have up to 29-hour battery life. And number 4, performance. AMD boasts of up to 69% faster performance in ProSci and Office productivity compared to competition at almost half the power draw. Here's the thing, if you're not sure about AMD Ryzen Pro laptops, go and try it out for free through the links below. And if you're interested in learning more about AMD Ryzen Pro and what it offers, go check out our dedicated video on the topic, also linked down below. Thank you AMD and Ryzen Pro for sponsoring this part of the video.
As you can see, these are not like the cheap fans. These are premium fans, and if you want fans in your PC system that are basically for life, even though it's got only 6 years warranty, these are the fans that you should be getting. When you look at the fans, they've got a little paper around, and that paper is just about wedged in there to make sure that in transport, the kind of banging and crashing that happens with these boxes wouldn't unbalance the fan in any way. They've designed a special frame that is strengthened, so even if you screw it in your PC case and you have strain on the side of the fan bracket, and let's say over time your PC gets warm and under pressure, it wouldn't actually change the fan performance because it's warped a little bit or it gets bent. It's just amazing. As you can see, the blade design is also very, very unique compared to some of the older ones. So here I have some different shapes of fan designs, and if you're looking at the new one, I have not seen a design like this before, and most likely some of the other companies are going to replicate it because this was one of their earlier designs, the kind of a aggressive bend, but here there's like a loopy, like a spoon or like a boomerang kind of feel in there as well. And if you look at this, which is the Fantex T30, it's very similar design to the Noctua's 120mm one, and it's a little bit different than the NHD15 previous generation fan cooling with that cooler. But basically these fans are the same that you can see in the Noctua NHD15 Gen 2 tower cooler, but it's not round design, it's actually a square design that you can use in your case or AIOs. So we remove this paper. This is where it gets very, very tricky. I'm not sure if you can see, but the distance between the fan edge of the blade and the actual fan frame is cut at least in half on these two fans. You can see there's a massive gap in there and a very small gap in there. All that does is that helps with the air pressure and airflow through that fan. And inside the box with the accessories, we're also going to be getting spare rubber fan mounts. You get your low noise adapter, which basically just turns down the fan speed. You get one extension cable to actually extend that cable, another extension cable. You get a Y splitter, which basically turns one PWM into 2, but doesn't change the actual fan speed, and another low noise adapter, and also some screws inside the box as well. Now here's the thing, if we're looking at some of the specs on this fan, then you see that Noctua has gone in absolute depth to make sure that you get the best performance and the quietest performance, because Noctua is all about silence and the best performance at the low noise. So you can see here that these fans go up to 1500 RPM, airflow 155.6 cubic meters per hour, noise 24.8, and static pressure is 2.56 millimeters of H2O. Let's take a look at some of the competition to actually put this in perspective. So looking at some of the fans that are out there or competing with this, especially 140 millimeters that you want to use for your radiators or, PC case. We have Silent Wings Pro 4 from from Be Quiet. And if we scroll a little bit down to actually look at some of these stats and statistics here, we can see that this fan goes 2,400 RPM. So this goes extra 900 RPM faster than this Noctua one over there, which results at massively higher noise levels at 36.8, which Noctua has 24.8 over here. This is not a linear graph in there, okay? The higher the decibels, it kind of goes like that. So that is massively higher. Now, the air pressure is higher as well at 3.64 millimeters H2 compared to 2.56, but it comes with the extra noise and fan speed. So it's not really comparable because Noctua could also make these fans turn up the speed and kind of get similar or if not better performance. But we're introducing extra noise. Be Quiet also has their Silent Wings 4, so not the Pro version, but 4, but the high speed versions that actually go up to 1,900 RPM. So that's faster than this Noctua here. But even at faster speeds, what happens is they're not able to produce the same air pressure, 2.56 compared to the 2.36. Noise levels much higher as well at 29.3 compared to the 24.8. Now, if we are putting the Silent Wings 4 and Silent Wings Pro 4 side to side, the fan design on both of them looks exactly the same. Now, I know that the frame is slightly different, as you can see on the Wings 4 to the Pro, but if you look at the blades, the blade design looks exactly the same to me, which means that looks like the Pro version just ramped up the speed rather than the design or tried to do something differently, which means that if Noctua also ramped up the speed, it would actually beat out the Wings Pro 4, because we know that at lower RPM, 1,900 RPM, which is still more and louder than Noctua, Noctua actually beats these Be Quiet at the performance. Both of these fans are quite expensive, and if you want to check them out, go check them out in the video description below. But moving on to a bit of a budget version here, which is the Arctic P14 Max. And here we have a 5-piece pack, and that costs 60 euros here. And if you want to check it out in the video description below, it's very, very affordable 5-pack. So if you want fans that are affordable, these guys are it, because if you look at the technical aspects and the actual performance here, then the static pressure is very impressive at 4.18 millimeters H260 compared to the 2.56. Now, bear in mind, these fans, these Arctic fans, go 2,800 RPM, which is almost double the fan speed what Noctua does in here. But here's the thing. What do you think is missing in these technical specifications of the Arctic fan? There is no noise measurement because they're embarrassed to put it in there. If they wanted to say that, look, it's actually quite quiet compared to some of the competition, they would have put that spec in there. But look at that. There's no acoustic noise spec in the spec sheet. It's just nowhere here. If you scroll a little bit up, you can see that there is 0 dB mode or 0 RPM mode. So it does go down if, you know, the PC doesn't need it. But when it actually cools, they don't want to tell you what the actual noise of this is. It's going to be a lot louder than this Noctua. And now you start to see why this Noctua fan is so special and so impressive. At its performance, I don't know if there's any other fan out there that can outperform this at the same noise levels. It's not cheap, but it's very, very good. Now, this power supply. And this power supply is going to be the last power supply you will ever need. I dare you to go check out the price in the video description below, because this is not for those people who just want the best bang for buck. It's for those people who want, look, I just want the best, most reliable and quiet power supply out there. This is it. If you're shopping for a Vauxhall or a Prius, look, there's nothing you should do at the Rolls-Royce webpage, okay? But if you are shopping for a supercar, there is nothing like this out there. So what are some of the things in the box, firstly, that impress me? Seasonic, one of the best power supply manufacturers out there, and Noctua, one of the best cooling manufacturers out there. This is like Toyota with their Toyota Supra, where they took a lot of BMW Z5 kind of components and made their own car on top of it. You might be saying, hey, this is not Toyota design. This is what we can say say here, it's not Noctua power supply, but it's like the best of both worlds. You take the engine from the BMW and you make your own car on top of it. And this is a little bit what's happening in here. This is 1600 watt power supply, and the TX means titanium, which means it's 80 plus titanium energy efficiency. The highest energy efficiency rating that you can get there. It's got all the bells and whistles, ATX 3.1 and PCIe 5.1 ready. These are the highest power supply ratings that are out there right now at this point in time. Some awards there as well. Check this out, 12-year warranty. So a decade later, you're gonna go back to Seasonic and say, look, I think my power supply is acting up. They're like, no problem, we'll replace it. That's amazing. If someone has so much trust in their product, you know this is a high-end product. Now, what does 80 plus titanium energy efficiency rating mean? Basically in here, they've demonstrated the graph that at any power load of the power supply, whether it's 10% or 100% power load, it's at least 90% efficiency, as you can see. Now, sometimes it goes above 95 to 96, 97, something like that, which means that you're not going to be wasting any of the energy or power that you'll be using. So over the 12 years that you will be using this power supply, you're going to save a lot of energy, which kind of justifies a little bit of the price tag. Maybe? Okay, inside here we've got the installation guide and some literature. Dear customer, these are Noctua manuals actually. So on this side, I believe we've got the, oh yeah boy, this is the power supply, and look at that. They've had to. Look at the detail they've gone into. They've changed the actual string rope that's inside this nice little fabric case to brown because it's Noctua brown. And then here on this side, we've got the cables. Oh my goodness. We've got a beautiful Noctua design on the top there. One of the main difference what's happening here is they have the Noctua NF A12X25 fan inside the power supply. As you can see, I've got the same fan in there, and if you look closely, it's exactly the same. The screw holes line up there as well. So it's the 120 millimeter fan that's inside there. But they just didn't slap that one on. Noctua had to over-engineer something. So this special grill cover is made in special way so that it would make as little noise as possible. I'm pretty confident saying that this is the quietest power supply out there in the world. Now, this brown cover actually goes all the way to the side as well, and you've got the Prime Noctua edition on both sides. Then on the back, we have a very special power connector. This is kind of like the kettle lead, but a little bit bigger. Now, what I've noticed is that power supplies that have 1200 or 1300 plus wattage outlet, they actually give you slightly different power cord. So I've used the Be Quiet and Seasonic 1500 and 1600 watt power supplies, and both of them have exactly the same power outlet there. So if something happens with the power cable and you lose it, it's a little bit harder to replace it. And the cable is a lot thicker. I'll show you that in a minute there as well. Then we've got a massive power on and off button and the hybrid mode, which means that basically if it's in low power and it doesn't need cooling, the fan will just turn off if you wanted to. But now to the other side. Oh mama, this is where things get interesting. Firstly, one of the main things is two PCIe Gen 5 connectors. This 16-pin high power connector that can support up to 600 watts per cable. So if you need a PC that runs two of the RTX 5090s, then this is a power supply probably that you need. It's native, there's no conversions on them, which is absolutely fantastic. Now, on top of that, you've got a heck of a lot of 8-pin cables here, whether you want them for your CPU or PCIe. So in essence, if you wanted to, you can have so many GPUs in that system powered by this. There's 9 8-pin connectors there. So usually you would have 2 for your CPU. Sometimes in a workstation, you have up to 4, like some of the Threadripper platforms. If you're running ridiculous setups, you might need 4. So let's say you take 4 because that's what you're getting the power supply for. You still have extra 5 8-pin connectors for something else. Then obviously your motherboard connector, 24-pin goes there. And then on top of that, 6-pin SATA or PCIe connectors there as well for your whatever you need. Now, if you need any more power than what's supplied in there, you're mental. You're 1 in a trillion person, and I don't know why you would need more than that. This is just everything you will ever need. I want to see the cables if they've done something special in here as well. Oh. Okay, there's another pouch in here. And what's inside here? What is this? Interesting. Looks like a 24-pin angled connector if you wanted to somehow angle it to the side. 90-degree angle connector. Oh, for the airflow. Okay, I see. So if usually you've got it on the motherboard and it makes a massive bend around, it stops the airflow from inside the PC case to go over. Whereas with this one, it's going to be very, very flat, and then you can get a better airflow over your RAM and other components inside your system, which is very, very clever to include that one. Now take a look at this cable and the thickness of this. This is very, very thick. Now, I've got another power cable that's the usual kettle lead that you see in cases, and I'm not sure if you can see how much thicker one is over the other. Now, the default or usual thickness of a cable here, what I can see is about 6.2 millimeters thick, or 6.1 millimeters thick, maybe like that, 6.2. Now, the cable that actually comes with this power supply is 8.35, 8.4 millimeters thick. Extra 2 millimeters, making sure that your copper can handle the 1600 watts. We have cable combs for all the cables that you might need. Zip ties, metal Noctua and Seasonic badge with some screws, and some brown Seasonic Noctua cable straps. And now the special cables. Okay, these cables you can only get with this power supply. They've gone the extra length to actually have custom sleeved cables here. They're brown and black, but interestingly not light brown, but the dark brown like you have in there. I would have expected like a light brown to be in there as well, but just a little taste, so it doesn't like jump out too much if you don't want your PC to have the light beige color. Now they've gone absolute extra length with even the 600 watt PCIe 5.0 cable. The 4 tiny wires that go on top of this. I've seen a lot of cables them, and often they kind of shortcut a little bit and make these cables not sleeved even if you have the other one sleeved, because they're a little bit thinner cables, but they've sleeved everything. Look at that. High quality cables. Right guys, there is nothing better than this out there. Now, one of the downsides that, if you know Seasonic power supplies, is when we did a build with the PX1600 power supply from Seasonic, then they actually had an extra 60 watt USB-C small charger that came with it, which is a really nice addition. I wish we had a Noctua one as well. It's really me saying, why isn't there an umbrella in the door of my Rolls Royce? Where is it? It's pretty insane on its own. So the point here is, if you're looking for high quality parts that are just amazing, then check out the Noctua version of this, because there is a company who cares and they've made something for you. Links in the video description below.